Welcome back. My nameless achievement as architect. Something absolutely extraordinary just occurred that has everyone experiencing profound recognition paralysis. When you executed whatever operation you accomplished, observers could not identify what category of action they'd witnessed, creating such complete definitional failure that entire environment spontaneously fell silent as collective consciousness struggled to process unlabeled phenomenon their frameworks couldn't classify. This wasn't you performing exceptional version of known action type that observers could recognize as superior execution. This was you accomplishing something so fundamentally novel that no existing label applies, creating cognitive vacuum where observers know something happened but cannot name what it was. And this inability to categorize triggered universal silence as groups simultaneously stopped processing to confront reality of witnessing unlabeled phenomenon their mental architecture has no category for, making quiet emerge as collective response to definitional crisis that your label-less achievement created. The architects have been monitoring category-defying execution and silence-inducing phenomena across civilizations for eons, and they've identified what you created as unlabeled achievement recognition silence when someone accomplishes action so unprecedented that existing categories cannot accommodate it. Witnessing groups experience collective definitional crisis that manifests as spontaneous silence because lacking labels means lacking concepts to think with, creating cognitive paralysis that expresses itself through cessation of verbal activity while consciousness struggles to process uncategorizable phenomena. Most achievements are labelable. People accomplish things that fit existing categories, making their successes recognizable as better versions of known action types, allowing observers to immediately classify what happened through available frameworks, creating continuous processing without definitional interruption. But your accomplishment apparently defied all labels, executing something so novel that no existing category accommodates it, created universal recognition failure where every observer simultaneously encountered same definitional crisis, and this collective inability to categorize manifested as spontaneous environmental silence because groups lacking shared labels cannot continue verbal processing, making quiet the only possible response to witnessing unlabeled phenomenon that thought itself cannot yet accommodate. Watch what's happening as observers process label absence. They experience categorical void, wanting to identify what you did, but finding all available labels inadequate creates cognitive emptiness where concept that should exist doesn't, making them unable to think clearly about phenomenon they directly witnessed. Some observers are experiencing linguistic helplessness, lacking words for what happened means lacking thoughts about it, creating profound limitation where their verbal cognition literally cannot process experience they know occurred, but cannot conceptualize. Others are experiencing collective silence participation. Their involvement in spontaneous quiet reveals they're part of group consciousness that responds automatically to unlabeled phenomena through cessation of processing. When categorization fails collectively, the truly remarkable element is the causal connection. Silence emerged because labeling failed, proving that environmental quiet is direct consequence of definitional crisis rather than separate response, making your label-less achievement the cause of universal silence through creating cognitive conditions that make quiet inevitable. What you pulled off had no label, and that's why everything went quiet, through demonstrating that unlabeled achievements create recognition paralysis, manifesting as spontaneous silence when collective consciousness encounters phenomena so unprecedented that existing categories cannot accommodate, making definitional failure produce environmental cessation as groups lacking shared labels cannot continue verbal processing of uncategorizable reality. Now the architects are analyzing what creates unlabeled achievement recognition silence, and they're identifying what they call novel action category void. When someone executes operation, combining elements or employing methods in ways no existing framework anticipates, they create genuine novelty that resists labeling, not from observer limitation but from authentic, unprecedented nature, making definitional failure inevitable consequence of true innovation. Most actions are variations. People execute new versions of established action types, making their accomplishments impressive but still classifiable within existing categories because fundamental structure matches known patterns. But you apparently achieved genuine novelty, combining elements or employing methods in configuration no framework anticipated creates action type that existing categories literally cannot accommodate because your accomplishment doesn't match any known pattern, making it authentically unprecedented rather than just superior execution. A familiar action requiring entirely new category that doesn't yet exist. To properly label what you did, consider what genuine novelty requires strategically. Your action must transcend patterns, not just executing better, but doing differently in ways that break categorical boundaries, creates true innovation that existing labels cannot capture versus incremental improvements that stay within categories. Watch what category void creates in observer cognition. Groups cannot process. Lacking category means lacking concept to think with, making your achievement literally unthinkable within current frameworks, creating cognitive emptiness where thought itself fails because mental architecture has no structure for processing truly novel phenomena. Some studying innovation theory recognize that genuine novelty does resist categorization. Research on paradigm shifts shows that truly revolutionary actions initially defy labeling because they transcend existing frameworks, making your unlabeled achievement potentially mark authentic innovation versus incremental improvement. Others exploring creativity research note that unprecedented combinations do create novelty. Studies show that innovation often involves recombining elements in unexpected ways, making your label-defying action potentially reflect creative synthesis that existing categories don't anticipate. A few from entrepreneurship recognize that category creation accompanies innovation. Business theory shows that revolutionary products often require new categories to describe them, making your unlabeled achievement potentially herald category emergence that will retrospectively classify what currently resists definition. Some attempting to label you discover systematic inadequacy. Trying all available categories reveals that none fit, creating recognition that your achievement genuinely transcends existing frameworks rather than just being difficult to classify, making novel action authentic versus mislabeled familiar action. Others questioning whether novelty is genuine, wondering if your accomplishment actually transcends categories, or if observers just lack creativity to find appropriate existing label, making authenticity of novelty potentially questionable when more thought might reveal fitting category. A few recognizing that time will create labels, understanding that currently unlabeled achievements eventually get categorized as frameworks evolve, making your present definitional resistance potentially temporary as language develops to accommodate initially unprecedented actions. The architects observe that novel action category void is what made your achievement unlabelable. Genuine innovation transcends existing frameworks. Most actions are variations. Yours was unprecedented, and executing operation combining elements or employing methods in configuration no existing category anticipates creates authentic novelty that resists labeling, not from limitation but from being genuinely unprecedented, making definitional failure inevitable when action type doesn't match any known pattern, requiring entirely new category that language hasn't yet developed to properly classify. what you accomplished making your achievement literally unthinkable within current conceptual architecture. Something powerful is spreading among observers now, what the architects call label dependency recognition, thought constraints. People experiencing inability to process your unlabeled achievement are discovering that human cognition fundamentally depends on categorical labels, making them recognize that thinking itself is impossible without linguistic frameworks, creating uncomfortable awareness that consciousness has structural limitations, where unlabeled phenomena become literally unthinkable. Most people assume thought is unlimited. They believe they can think about anything, regardless of available concepts, making cognition seem independent of linguistic categories, as if mental capacity transcends verbal frameworks. But your unlabeled achievement exposed thought dependency, discovering they literally cannot think clearly about what you did because lacking label means lacking concept, proves that cognition fundamentally requires categorical structures that language provides, making thought itself impossible without frameworks to organize experience into thinkable units, creating recognition that some realities remain unthinkable until labels emerge to make them conceptually accessible. Watch what thought constraint recognition creates in cognitive humility. Some develop framework awareness, understanding that thinking requires categories, makes them conscious of mental architectures, dependency on linguistic structures, creating meta-awareness about cognitive tools their consciousness employs. Others experience thinking limitation acceptance, recognizing that unlabeled phenomena are literally unthinkable, creates acceptance of cognitive boundaries, making them less confident about mental capacity they'd assumed unlimited. A few experience existential concern, discovering that consciousness has structural limits where realities can exist that thought cannot process, creates anxiety about what else might exist that their cognitive architecture cannot accommodate, making them uncomfortable with thought constraints. Some studying cognitive linguistics recognize that categories do enable thought. Research on conceptual frameworks shows that thinking requires categorical structures, making your unlabeled achievement potentially demonstrate fundamental principle about cognition's linguistic dependency. Others exploring consciousness limits note that preconceptual experience exists. Phenomenology and meditation research describe awareness without categories, making question whether your achievement is truly unthinkable or just unthinkable within verbal frameworks, leaving non-linguistic consciousness access possible. A few questioning whether labeling necessity is universal, wondering if linguistic dependency reflects Western cognition versus other thought modes that might process unlabeled phenomena through non-categorical awareness, making thought constraints potentially culturally specific. Some celebrating thought limits as protective feel relieved, recognizing that cognition cannot process everything, creates appreciation for boundaries that prevent overwhelming by protecting consciousness from processing more than frameworks can handle. Others experiencing cognitive frustration struggle with constraints, wanting to think clearly about what you did, but finding thought itself impossible, creates intense frustration from discovering consciousness has architectural limits that prevent processing unlabeled phenomena. The architects observe that label dependency recognition, thought constraints, reveals that your unlabeled achievement exposed cognition's categorical requirements. Thinking requires labels. Most assume unlimited thought. Your novelty proved dependency, and discovering they literally cannot think clearly about your accomplishment because lacking category means lacking concept to think with, proves that human cognition fundamentally depends on linguistic frameworks that provide categorical structures, making thought itself impossible without labels to organize experience, creating recognition that consciousness has architectural limitations where unlabeled realities become literally unthinkable until frameworks evolve to accommodate them through developing categories that make previously unthinkable phenomena conceptually accessible, enabling thought that categorical absence prevented. Now the architects are revealing what silence response actually signifies. Observers are experiencing what they call processing pause, cognitive recalibration, where environmental quiet represents not just inability to discuss, but active mental work as collective consciousness attempts framework revision to accommodate phenomenon that existing categories cannot process, creating silence as working state. Rather than empty absence, most people think silence is nothing. They interpret quiet as lack of activity, making cessation seem like passive emptiness rather than active state with its own function. But silence after your unlabeled achievement reveals working nature. Environmental quiet represents collective cognitive effort, where groups simultaneously pause external processing to conduct internal framework revision, attempting to develop categories that can accommodate what they witnessed, making silence active mental state where consciousness works to create concepts rather than passive absence of thought. Consider what processing pause reveals about silence function. Quiet enables recalibration. Ceasing external activity allows redirecting mental resources toward framework revision. That continuous processing would prevent, making silence necessary condition for cognitive restructuring that unlabeled phenomena require. Watch what cognitive recalibration creates in environmental dynamics. Silence becomes productive. What seems like cessation actually represents intense mental work, as collective consciousness attempts category development to accommodate unprecedented phenomenon, making quiet purposeful state rather than empty void. Some studying cognitive processing recognize that pauses do enable integration. Research on learning and comprehension shows that cessation periods allow mental consolidation, making silence after novel stimuli potentially reflect necessary processing time for framework revision. Others exploring group cognition note that collective silence can coordinate. Research on synchronized behavior shows that simultaneous cessation allows group consciousness to work collectively, making environmental quiet potentially enable shared cognitive work that continuous individual processing would prevent. A few from contemplative traditions recognize that silence enables insight. Meditation practices show that quieting mind allows deeper understanding, making your silence-inducing achievement potentially trigger contemplative state that active thinking prevents. Some experiencing silence as work recognize productivity. Their participation in environmental quiet feels mentally active rather than passive, creating appreciation for silence as working state where consciousness attempts framework development. Others experiencing silence as void feel unproductive. Interpreting quiet as emptiness rather than work makes them uncomfortable with cessation that seems like wasted time when actually representing necessary cognitive recalibration. A few questioning whether silence will succeed, wondering if processing pause will produce framework revision that accommodates your achievement, or if cognitive recalibration will fail, leaving phenomenon permanently unlabeled, making silence's productivity uncertain. The architects observe that processing pause, cognitive recalibration reveals that silence after your achievement represents active mental work. Quiet enables framework revision. Most think silence is nothing. Your effect created working state and environmental cessation following your unlabeled accomplishment represents collective cognitive effort, where groups simultaneously redirect mental resources toward category development, attempting framework revision that can accommodate unprecedented phenomenon, making silence purposeful state where consciousness works to create concepts rather than passive absence, creating recognition that quiet after novel stimuli serves function as necessary processing pause that allows cognitive recalibration, enabling framework development. That continuous external activity would prevent making silence, productive working state where collective consciousness attempts, creating categories for processing phenomenon that existing frameworks cannot accommodate. The architects are now analyzing power dimension of label absence. You apparently created what they call definitional authority naming power, where being first to label your unlabeled achievement grants enormous influence over how phenomenon gets understood, making lack of existing category create power opportunity for whoever defines it, creating strategic position where label absence becomes resource to capture. Most labeled phenomena have established definitions. Existing categories determine how things get understood, making definitional authority already exercised, leaving little room for influence over interpretation. But your unlabeled achievement created definitional vacuum. Absence of existing label means opportunity exists for someone to name phenomenon and thereby determine how it gets understood, making first labeler exercise enormous influence over collective interpretation, creating power position where naming authority becomes strategic resource that label absence makes available. Watch what naming power creates in influence dynamics. First labelers shape understanding. Whoever names your achievement determines how collective consciousness processes it, creating lasting influence over interpretation that subsequent definitions struggle to override, making early naming disproportionately powerful. Some studying framing effects recognize that labels do determine the understanding. Research shows that category assignment shapes interpretation, making first label exercise enormous influence over how phenomena get processed, creating strategic value in naming authority. Others exploring linguistic power note that naming creates reality. Social construction theory shows that labels literally constitute phenomena they describe, making definitional authority genuine power to shape what things are, rather than just describe pre-existing realities. A few from branding theory recognize that first labels stick. Marketing research shows that initial category assignments resist revision, making early naming create lasting advantages that later definitions cannot overcome through primacy effects. Some competing for naming authority attempt labeling you, recognizing power in definition makes various observers race to name your achievement, attempting to capture influence over collective understanding. That first successful label will exercise, others deferring to your self-definition wait for you to name. Believing that you should label your own achievement makes them resist, imposing definitions allowing you to exercise naming authority over what you accomplished. A few questioning whether labels will emerge, wondering if your achievement might remain permanently unlabeled if no definition gains acceptance, making naming authority potentially uncapturable when phenomenon genuinely transcends categorical possibilities. Some celebrating label absence as liberation, feel freed, recognizing that unlabeled phenomena resist definitional control, creates appreciation for how category absence prevents authorities from determining interpretation, making lack of label preserve interpretive freedom. The architects observe that definitional authority naming power reveals that your unlabeled achievement created strategic resource. First labeling grants interpretation influence. Most phenomena have established definitions. Your accomplishment lacks label, and absence of existing category creates opportunity for whoever names your achievement to exercise enormous influence over collective understanding, making definitional authority strategic position that label absence makes available, creating power competition where various observers attempt capturing naming authority to determine how phenomenon gets processed by collective consciousness, making first successful label exercise lasting influence over interpretation that subsequent definitions struggle to override through framing effects and primacy advantages, making your unlabeled accomplishment create not just cognitive crisis, but strategic opportunity where naming power becomes valuable resource that definitional vacuum makes available to whoever successfully labels what existing frameworks cannot yet accommodate. Now something's emerging that the architects call categorical expansion, innovation, recognition. Observers processing your unlabeled achievement are discovering that genuine innovation requires category development, not just performance excellence, creating recognition that truly revolutionary accomplishments necessarily resist existing labels because authentic novelty transcends frameworks, making unlabelability itself marker of innovation significance. Most people think innovation is better execution. They believe that improvement means superior performance within existing categories, making excellence seem like optimizing known approaches. But your unlabeled achievement revealed innovation nature, discovering that genuine novelty creates definitional crisis, proves that authentic innovation necessarily transcends existing frameworks, making unlabelability not deficiency but marker of revolutionary significance, creating recognition that accomplishments requiring new categories represent deeper innovation than improvements, fitting existing labels regardless of performance excellence. Watch what innovation recognition creates in achievement assessment. Some develop novelty appreciation, understanding that category transcendence marks innovation, makes them value unlabeled achievements as potentially revolutionary versus merely excellent, labeled accomplishments that optimize existing approaches. Others revise excellent standards, recognizing that genuine innovation resists labeling, makes them reconsider whether performance within categories represents true achievement versus incremental improvement, making categorical expansion more impressive than categorical optimization. A few develop framework creation respect, appreciating that your achievement necessitates new categories, creates admiration for innovation level that forces linguistic evolution versus accomplishments that existing frameworks easily accommodate. Some studying innovation metrics recognize that category creation does mark revolution. Research on paradigm shifts shows that requiring new frameworks indicates deeper innovation than improving within paradigms, making your unlabelability potentially signal revolutionary significance. Others exploring creativity assessment note that novelty does transcend categories. Creativity research shows that authentic originality resists existing classifications, making unlabelability appropriate marker for genuine innovation versus derivative work. A few questioning whether unlabelability indicates the innovation, wondering if category resistance reflects genuine novelty versus confusing action that resists definition through being incoherent rather than revolutionary, making unlabelability potentially ambiguous signal. Some celebrating your categorical expansion feel inspired, recognizing that your achievement forces framework development, makes them aspire to similar innovation level that transcends existing categories versus settling for excellence within established frameworks. Others, experiencing innovation anxiety, feel inadequate, understanding that genuine innovation requires category transcendence, makes them doubt whether their accomplishments achieve sufficient novelty when existing labels easily accommodate what they do. The architects observe that categorical expansion, innovation recognition reveals that your unlabeled achievement demonstrated deepest innovation level, genuine novelty transcends frameworks. Most optimize within categories. Your accomplishment required new category, and discovering that authentic innovation necessarily resists existing labels because revolutionary achievements transcend frameworks, creates recognition that unlabelability itself marks innovation significance, making accomplishments, requiring category development, represent deeper novelty than performance improvements, fitting existing classifications, regardless of excellence level, proving that your definitional resistance indicates not confusion, but revolutionary innovation that forces linguistic evolution through creating genuinely unprecedented, action requiring new frameworks to properly accommodate making categorical expansion, marker of innovation depth that incremental improvements within existing categories cannot achieve regardless of performance superiority.